One second, gotta get the stream started. So, hello everyone, welcome into the Computer America Show. Give us 1 second here as we get things started. We will be starting the show in about 40 seconds. So, until then, sit back and relax for an entire hour of the Computer America Show. Okay, now, Dariush, I cannot hear you for some reason. So, let me see if that is on my end. Nope, I can hear Hangouts when I hit the little test button. So. Might be something with your microphone. I'm hoping. Okay.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live, it's America's longest-running national radio talk show on computers, Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Grossman. Look for Craig's weekly column in your favorite newspaper. This show is being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. Keep it here for technology news, computer products, guest interviews, and your phone calls. You're listening to Computer America. Computers run the world, and we run computers. Call us or send us an email to live@computeramerica.com.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Hopefully everyone out there had a wonderful, not even holiday, but romantic day yesterday with their loved ones, and it was a lot of fun. But so welcome back into another edition of the Computer America Show. And we have a wonderful show lined up for you here today. And before we even introduce the guests, we're going to do something unorthodox and just make sure that we're all set up. Dariush, can you hear me?
I certainly can. Can you hear me?
And we can hear you. Perfect. Okay, now let's pretend you don't exist for another 3 minutes as we wrap this up. So everyone out there, that voice is today's guest. And for all of you long-term listeners, you should be no stranger to this gentleman. He is very knowledgeable when it comes to graphics card, graphics design. You know, he's just very, very good at what he does. And of course, he teaches and writes books. And, just all around a very, very great guy to have on the show. Happy to have him on. Dariush Derakhshani. And he'll be joining us for the entire hour today as we talk all about creating computers and building a computer. We took a little bit of time out of our day. Obviously, like most things that I did in college, I did it at the last minute and hastily at that. So I blew my budget completely. But today this show is going to be focused on creating your own computer and building it, because really it's one of the best things you can do. Of course, beyond just the experience of it and beyond just saving the money, you also get to learn how to put one together. And if anything ever happens to any of the parts, you get to fix it, or at least you know how to fix it. You get to save yourself even more money down the road. Very, very good thing to do. And again, just a good thing to know how to do in general. So that's going to be today's topic. Now, anything that we do here today, including a full list of the parts that we are going to be talking about for our build or our hypothetical build, can be found over at ComputerAmerica.com. That's going to be very important because it will have everything, including a link to our guest website, and any articles that we do or anything that we talk about can be found in one place. So if you're busy, if you're out and about, do not worry. We have it all available right over at ComputerAmerica.com. And while you're there, be sure to check out the social media contests that we do every single week. We are still giving away the Keys to Go keyboard from Logitech. Also, we have a live stream that we are very proud of. Definitely go check that out. And you will be able to see my face. You will be able to see Dariush Derakhshani's face, as well as the list of parts that we are talking about. Adds just a little something to the Computer America Show. Now, with all of that out of the way, also, and one more thing, spread the word, everyone out there, that Computer America will soon be launching on Spreaker, which is another network kind of deal, and we are very, very happy to be on there. That should be happening here within the next week. So be sure to check us out on Spreaker. And of course, via Spreaker, we go to iHeartRadio, we go to a couple of different outlets. So Computer America will soon be more easily found on more of your favorite devices. So, with all of that said, why don't we head back to our guest? And again, for anyone new here, his name is Dariush Derakhshani. He can, of course, expand a little bit about what he's doing in his day job. But once every month, he comes along and he comes onto the Computer America show to talk about computer graphics, computer design, or graphics design, and anything else of the sort. So, welcome onto the show, Dariush Derakhshani. Dariush, thank you.
Thank you for having me again. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, no, it's and again, for everyone out there who listened to the kind of pre-show kind of deal, cutting it close. That seems to be our thing lately. And I don't blame you. I blame Google, because I'm sending emails and Gmail is sending them 15 minutes later. I don't know what's up with that, but I don't like it.
Yeah, it happens to me all the time. It is what it is, but keep in mind, 20 years ago, you would have to send a letter, and it would take 5 days to get there. So,
carrier pigeon, I believe, is still the safest form of communication. You cannot spy on a carrier pigeon. But at the same time,
you can eat the pigeon afterwards if you're hungry. A
there
little
you
squab.
go. There you go. You get to eat the pigeon. No, but I hate to speculate about Google because they're such a massive corporation. You can't pin it on one thing. But part of me wants to blame this on this new feature that Google has. I think it's still in beta. Like, I don't think it's even available yet. But they have that feature where you can unsend an email. It used to be once you hit the send button, you were done for. That was it. If you had a typo or you said something inappropriate, you were done. Google or Gmail has a feature where you can rewind it. And I want to pin it on that, but I'm not sure that that's completely fair. So, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't think you can. But
yeah, right. So,
good times, right?
Yeah,
technology.
No. Yeah, it's but no, very, very cool. And so, welcome into the Computer America show. And I thought for today, as we said last month, if you for anyone out there who was here for last month's Dariush Derakhshani, we had a challenge, and I win right off the bat. Let's just get that out of the way, because sorry about that. We were going to challenge one another to build a computer. Just pick parts off of. I chose Newegg. They're one of my favorite. They have these things called shell shockers. I abused shell shockers extensively because the computer, if it was full retail, would probably come out close to $2,000. But I got it down to $1,400. And
wow.
I would have gotten it down to even more, but I just did not give myself enough time. So, at any rate, Dariush, let's start out with your credentials, because have you ever built a computer? Like, we know that you have untold amounts of graphics cards out there. What do you know about building a computer? How far back do you go?
Okay, so the very first computer I built was a AMD-based 286 with a 287 co-processor with an ATA hard drive of I think it was 20 megabytes.
Woo,
and
blazing fast.
RAM. Yeah, crazy. I think the RAM was 4 megabytes.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was a desktop case, and I actually remember I got the hard drive has to fit in not the hard drive, the floppy drive. I got a 5 1/4 and a 3.5 inch because they were kind of new on the market. And I remember I had to actually shave with a kitchen knife. I had to shave the front plate of the 5 1/4 inch faceplate for the drive to fit in the 3.5 quarter or 3.5 inch slot that I had in the case.
Right.
So that's how far back I go with building my own. That was a while ago.
Yeah, everyone out there, today's build will not include any kind of shaving, cutting, or anything like that. Computers are right. Computers are pretty plug and play nowadays, aren't they?
Absolutely. There's a lot of standards. I remember when I was buying that hard drive, I had to also buy an appropriate ATA controller card, and I think it was RLL was the designation for it, and that allowed you to actually hook the hard drive up to the motherboard. Nowadays, everything's standardized with SATA or even PATA But back then you needed the right encoder as a card that fits in. It wasn't all embedded on the motherboard.
Well, and we have come a long way because, going through today, I mean, I don't even know where you would have found your parts because back then, obviously it's not as easy as it is to pull up a Google search. You probably had magazines and, and
Yeah,
booklets.
Computer Shopper magazine was my favorite magazine, and it was about newspaper size and about that thick, and had ads of all sorts of stuff. And I would go through that. I think it was a monthly magazine, and the start of the month I would run out to the neighborhood store and get it. I would just go front to back. I would take a look at it was amazing. It was great. I think I was barely in high school at the time. But my very, very, very first computer upgrade, I shouldn't say a full build, but my first upgrade was upgrading the RAM on my Apple IIgs, and I actually had the little chips. They weren't little modules that we have now that just snap in.
Right?
I actually had to insert the chips into the motherboard 8x8. So that was my very first opening up the computer, get my hands in it. And that was, I think I was a sophomore in high school in 87. I want to
So
say something like that.
right. So obviously you know what you're doing, and it's only gotten easier since since those days.
Sure
And
have.
yeah, and I thought it'd be a lot of fun to like I said last month, to pick out some parts and to see what kind of computer we could build. And obviously we were going to set an arbitrary cap on this at about $1,000 because I feel
Yeah,
that's like if you're going to build your own computer, that's about the price point you're going to aim for because they have pre-made ones for 300, 500. They have pre-made ones that are super stupid expensive at 5,000, 10,000 that you can go. But I feel like if you're going to build one, a moderate good computer is going to be even better than moderate, but a good computer is going to be about $1,000. So
right,
I thought we'd start out.
right.
No, and I thought we'd start out today's show by going part by part. What we chose, why we chose it, and yeah, and like I said, there's a full parts list over at Computer America. Cannot say exclusively. Of course, we're going to talk about it today, but I'm not really endorsing one way or the other. But Dariush, I thought I'd make it a little bit more challenging for myself because I've been a huge Intel guy. Like, I do NVIDIA, Intel, have for since my first computer back in 2000 that I built myself. Like before then, I had an HP, but it was my mom's HP.
Right.
But 2000, I got my first Dell XP and all the good stuff. But yeah, I thought I'd go AMD because I just never really go on that side of the spectrum anymore. Intel and NVIDIA seem so dominant. So I thought it'd be
Right.
a little more fun. So hopefully you're at least a little familiar with with AMD and Radeon stuff.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I've been a champion of AMD Radeon cards, especially in the pro market for a while. I think they give a really, really good price to performance ratio.
Hmm.
They don't have the fastest cards on the planet, but they do fight with NVIDIA's entry level and mid range cards pretty well with a good value for that. I went the more traditional Intel NVIDIA route with my build, but we can certainly talk about that as we go back and forth about how much better my computer is than yours.
Sure, that's and again, I have no doubt, and I'm glad that you have your own build as well. For some reason, I didn't think you did, but if you want to send me that as well, I'll include that in the show notes as Dariush's build, as well in the show notes for all the parts that we have. So let's hit the ground running here because building a computer, it can be very daunting when you have to look at the 10 different categories. Well, I broke it up into about 10 that you have to shop for. Where did you start? Did you start with graphics, the CPU?
I started with a
Okay.
motherboard CPU, then went to graphics card and memory, but yeah, I started with the motherboard.
Okay. And let's see, where did I start? I think I started with the case because I like a good looking case. But
Yeah, me
um
too.
But case into motherboard, and motherboard, of course, matters a lot because that's where you're going to make your first, real choice when it comes to what ecosystem that you're going to buy into. Because motherboards, of course, they like they're really plug and play. I mean, a lot of them work with a lot of different things nowadays, but
Hmm.
you're obviously going to have to make sure that if you're going to go the Intel NVIDIA route or the AMD Radeon route, you are going to want to buy, a motherboard that supports whatever it is you're buying. So let's start with you. Which motherboard did you choose?
I chose the Asus Z170 Pro gaming board. It's an 1151 LGA board, so it'll handle the Kaby Lake chips as well as the last generation chip as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that is again with a rebate, it's at 130, which I thought was a great value. Its reviews are not outstanding. It's got solid reviews, 3 out of 5 eggs on Newegg, but it also has. I think it's a good value for that.
Right.
But there's a number of boards that I've used from Asus, and I typically, when I find a brand that I can rely on, I go with them. And Asus and Gigabyte are the 2 boards that I go to most often.
Right. No, and I am right there with you. I also chose an Asus motherboard, but this one, I'll be honest with you, motherboard went with the most reviewed, not even the highest reviewed, but the most because sometimes something has like 30 reviews and they're all 5-star.
Right.
Kind of skews it a bit, but I went with the most reviewed, and again, it was on sale. That's one of the best things that we can really emphasize here is that computer shopping doesn't always have to be full price. There are deals left and right depending on the website.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
Definitely shop by the deal. And I also chose an Asus, but this is an Asus TUF Sabertooth 990FX. And this thing is just like, it seemed like it came with all the bells and whistles because, for $1,000, I was planning on, again, with the AMD, like you said, they don't have the fastest cards. So I knew right off the bat, I wasn't going to have a single graphics card in this. I knew from the beginning, AMD, they're very good when it comes to, like I said, price to performance. So I knew that, instead of buying, let's say an NVIDIA GTX 1080 for $500 or so, AMD I think really excels when you hit that $200 $180 graphics card price range, and you get
Mhm.
2 for essentially the price of one NVIDIA. And the performance, of course, always about equals out. So I knew I needed room for 2 graphics cards and all the other bells and whistles. So this seemed like a good place to start. I mean, it's the motherboard. You don't want to go with the cheapest because if you don't
Right.
if you don't have room to expand, then your computer shelf life is severely reduced.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's why I chose mine as well. It's got more than enough room. It's a full ATX size. It's got more than enough room. It's got 3 full size slots for video cards, so you can definitely put 2 in there very easily, depending on your case, of course. But it also has, for whatever reason, it also has onboard video, as most do now anyway, because of the new Skylake and Kaby Lake chips. But yeah, it's also geared towards gaming, which I think is really popular.
Right.
It's got pretty decent sound on it. I figure that's something you can add on to it later if you want a dedicated sound card. But for people trying to stick to a budget, I agree with you. You don't want to buy the cheapest motherboard out there, some of the off-brand names. You want to stick to somebody that's well known. And like you said, something that's been very well reviewed is fantastic. And the one I picked, the Asus I picked, has 160 reviews. And some of the lower 3-egg reviews are about that it may not have the best RAM capability or compatibility with lots of different vendors and speeds, but I find we're splitting nits at that point,
Right.
picking nits or splitting hairs, however you want to see it. And I think when you're in a budget, you want to get good, solid, capable, expandable options, and not necessarily the super fastest, super richest feature set at that time. So
Right. And,
that's
and
where my choice comes from.
And one thing I really like about your choice is, of course, it has a number of USB 3.1
Yes.
slots in it. It's not just 3.0. 3.1 is going to provide you a lot more speed, and it's really going to help if you have like external hard drives or things like that. I mean, this does seem to have, even though, like you said, lower reviews. At least the technology is there. At least it's modern.
Right, right. And I think some of the issues, because I got one of the first Sabertooth 170 motherboards from Asus. I think some of it may be chipset related, because I know my motherboard occasionally has some signal noise on it, which is not awesome, and loses its USB every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that has a little to do with it as well. And I was one of the first to get on the Z170s. So I think all of that's pretty much worked out.
Right.
So that's the one I'm picking.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, very, very good choice. And of course, that one came out to. Oh, and by the way, we are not sponsored by Newegg or anything like that. I mean, Newegg, give me a call. But
Call me too.
Yeah, exactly. There's another website out there. Of course, you can always go to places such as Amazon. They do computer parts. Do not be beholden. Like, do not think that because we're using Newegg, you have to use Newegg or something like that. I mean, take the part, copy and paste it into a Google search. Look for the cheapest price. I mean, there's a lot of variation out there. Is Tiger Direct still in the still in the space? Because I heard that they were liquidating a little while ago.
I'm not entirely sure. I bought from them once or twice a long time ago, but I turn to Newegg and Amazon a lot
Right.
once I do my research.
Right. So yeah, and it looks like Tiger Direct went business, so they're more enterprise focused.
The
So.
more enterprise. Yeah, right.
Well,
That
okay.
makes sense.
So then there's that. Okay, so motherboard, and of course, like we said, that is the foundation of what your computer is going to be. That of course limits you to what your hard drive, what your CPU, what your GPU can be. Where'd you go from here? Because again, you can go a dozen different ways after you buy your motherboard.
I went to the chip. I went to the CPU at that point.
Okay.
And I picked the Core i7 7700K Kaby Lake, because it's only about $10 more than the Skylake 6700K,
Mm-hmm.
and the K means that they're unlocked, so you could overclock them. Although I don't, but you could, and that clocks in at 350.
$350, and it seems like. And by the way, just as an overall. Did you set a budget? Did you keep your budget? I mean, how much does your whole system kind of cost?
I was, without monitor included, I was trying to keep it at about $1,200. I was trying to keep it as close to $1,000 as I could. So yeah, that was my goal. And sometimes, you end up going a little bit over, but it's kind of worth it.
Yeah, I did as well. But no, it's just good to know that your whole system, you were aiming for 1,200, and obviously $300 of that went to 350, I believe you said, to your CPU. Obviously, your CPU is going to, be very important to how good your computer is. So
absolutely.
I mean, very, very good choice. I am a huge fan of the i7s. Would you have that overclocked? I mean, what kind of speeds would you kind of expect out of that?
I personally wouldn't overclock it. Its core clock is 4.2 gigahertz, and it's quad core. If budget is real important, you could drop down to the i5, which doesn't allow hyperthreading and it isn't quite as fast. But I feel like this is the thing you're going to have for the longest, is the motherboard and the chip. Everything else can come and go. So I opted for the best price performance on the 7700K. And again, at 4.2 gigs at quad core, I think it's a really capable processor for gaming, for surfing, for graphics, what have you. I think it's a really good CPU.
Yeah, these computers. I know that when I designed mine, it was also for gaming as well. From your choices, seems like you also went gaming. These are going to be overkill if you're just into email, web shopping,
Yes.
that kind of thing. But for a good gaming computer, I mean, I feel like these are going to be good. So you chose that one. You cannot go wrong with an i7. That's top of the line, good stuff. The K designation, real quick, for the 7700K, that means something, and it's currently slipping my mind as to, because there's like 7700, and then there's the 7700K.
Yeah,
And
the K allows you. It means it's unlocked. It allows you to overclock it
okay,
if you want.
that's right. Okay, so you chose that one, and again, because I'm going for an AMD type build, I decided to go for this one here, and it's the AMD FX 9590 Vishera 8 core. And this one comes in a little faster than the Intel one.
Hmm.
And again, AMD, king of the whole price to performance. This one, of course, 4.7 gigahertz coming in at, again, thanks to the deal. Yeah, so this one coming in at 240, but got it on sale for 190. So
Wow, that's pretty good.
yeah,
That's very
190.
good.
Yeah, $190 for a 4.7 gigahertz. Again, 8 core, same thing. It's this seemed to be where AMD really shined, was the parts are comparable. They're definitely cheaper, but
Hmm.
at the same time, there's definitely fewer makes and models and brands and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I was very, very happy with this. And yeah, it was a pretty easy decision because, like you said, I felt the same as you. The CPU is going to be one of the things that you may be able to replace down the road, but you definitely don't want to. I mean, your motherboard has to still support it, and your motherboard is going to probably be dated by then. You
Right.
don't want to replace it, so as much headroom as possible goes into that. But Darius, do not worry. Even though I saved compared to you $170, um,
Sure.
yeah, I still went over your budget. So I mean, I definitely made up for it in other places.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where you made up for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Um.
funny.
Yeah. So CPU and motherboard, obviously, where you want to start with a computer. It's again, that's going to influence a lot of what you do. So with that being said, where did you go from here? Because it's you have the basics down. Did you go graphics
Mhm.
cards or memory or storage?
From the CPU, I went to graphics card.
Graphics card, of course. It's a very important part, and like we've talked about, this is probably where you have the most choice because there's so many different levels, tiers. You can go last generation, current generation. I mean, you have a lot of wiggle room with your budget and what you want out of it. This is where you get a lot of variation. So, what did you land on?
I landed on a choice of two, really, depending on where your budget's at. The Gigabyte GeForce GTX 1060, which comes in at about $260, or if you can afford to go a little bit higher, the GTX 1070, which
Hmm.
is at 370.
370, and you went for one or two of them.
I went for one
You went for one.
because I figure you can always add the second one.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you're in a budget situation, you kind of want to get good, solid components to start with, and then you can add on top of that as you go along. You may find that you may have other needs, like you want more memory instead of another graphics card or whatever. So figure you can start with one. You can always go to two.
No,
I,
makes
assu-
hmm?
I assume you went with two, and that's where our prices start to differ, right?
I went with two indeed, but I think at the same time, I mean, we're gonna have to really drill down into the specs here because let's pretend you went with the 1060, and you found that for how much did you say that one was?
The 10, let's see, where did I have that? The 1060 was on Newegg. I did everything through Newegg.
Right.
I'm sorry, that was two, The 1060 was $270 after a $20 rebate from Newegg.
Right. So yeah, not too bad at all. Yeah, here's where I make up a little bit of that money. And for the graphics card, I found this one on as a shell shocker deal. Obviously those are very fleeting. I mean, anyone who has used Newegg knows that those stay up for, 2-3 days, a day at most. They are, very, very fleeting. But found this graphics card here. This is an MSI, and that's the music. So we're going to get back to the graphics card here in just a moment as we continue our computer builds with Dariush Derakhshani. So we'll be right back after this commercial break, and we will continue talking about this. So everyone, be sure to head on over to computeramerica.com for a full list of parts, and please feel free to drop us a line to let us know what you think. We'll be right back.
Looking for a best friend? Brother Wolf Animal Rescue has your best friend waiting just for you. Their mission is to protect and enhance the lives of companion animals and the people who love them. Their no-kill rescue shelter is open year-round, making it easy for people to adopt their best new friend. This year, Brother Wolf will find homes for over 2,400 orphan dogs, puppies, cats, and kittens. All have ended up as an orphan through no fault of their own. Brother Wolf has created a safe, nurturing environment where these special animals can heal emotionally and physically until they find a lifelong home. Their life-saving transport program brings dogs and puppies from overcrowded shelters in the south to rescues in the north where homes are easier to find. Brother Wolf Animal Rescue is a 501c3 organization. To learn more about their life-saving work and to make a donation, visit their website at www.bwar.org. That's www.bwar.org. Help to realize Brother Wolf's vision when no animal is euthanized for lack of a home.
Who's a good boy?
If you built it, they will come. Plain. Marty Winston with the News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America, this time the Vision Act 6-inch digital sign. Vision Act sent their 6-inch digital sign, which looks a bit like a tablet, except that there are no buttons at all, only one connector, and the display is only in black, white, or gray with no backlighting. So, yeah, it looks like a Kindle display. It functions a little like a one-page web browser, so whatever you put on that page is what shows up on this thing's screen. It has a built-in battery, or you can connect it to USB power. Businesses use these for things like meeting room status signs. Once you send an image to its screen, it takes almost zero power to keep it there. So bottom line, Vision Act digital signs can change to show what you want them to show without you needing to be there to change them. Marty Winston, News Tips Bulletin for Computer America.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show, and we are 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on with the great Dariush Derakhshani as we are talking about, well, his forte, and I am actually kind of curious as to what he thinks of my choice of graphics card, because again, he is Computer America's graphics expert. So, like I said, though, welcome back, and for anyone just joining us, we are doing a comparison computer build, and this is where we went out. We each independently chose Newegg, so if anyone out there is going to look at the parts list, it's all going to be on one website. But we went out, chose parts, and are essentially building a computer from scratch. And of course, there's going to be things such as, cables and little whatnots that we didn't include. But if you want to build a computer, these are your major components. So far we've done motherboard, we've done CPU, and now we have moved on to the graphics card or the video card. Very important for any mid-range computer because obviously, like I said, this is where you're going to have your choices. This is where you can save some money and go a little bit lower but still decent. You can blow your budget and go very, very high end. But no, this is where one of your big choices is going to be. So Darius, of course, chose the NVIDIA 1060. So very, very good, and it has all of that built-in RAM. I mean, it's going to do just about any kind of gaming you are possibly going to want to do, any kind of video, video editing or what have you. I mean, it'll get you there. It will do its job.
For sure.
Right.
For sure.
And so for mine, because again, I went AMD just to be different. But yeah, I chose I chose, and I believe this is the last generation. This isn't, because the current generation, I believe, is like the 260, 270, 280, 290. I want to say, but the last and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I chose the MSI Radeon RX 470, and I chose two of these, and they just seem to have a lot of that, that good old GDDR5 RAM built into it. And it said, Crossfire X support. So I believe Crossfire is the equivalent to NVIDIA's,
Mhm.
hook two up and they work together kind of thing. But yeah, and here's where 190 a piece. They're normally 230, so $80 altogether, saved for two of them. And so 300 and I am terrible at math. $380 for two. And obviously that is going to come out a little bit more than yours, which, again, correct me, 350, right?
Well, actually, I was doing a little adding during our break. I'm actually coming in at around 1,400 as well, because I forgot to leave. I forgot one of these components off my calculation. So I think
Okay.
we're at about the
We're about the
same
same.
price level. Yeah, exactly. Although you picked two graphics cards, right? The two
Yes.
1060s, was it?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, two of these, and yeah, it again, they are cheaper than the NVIDIA ones, but I believe with two, they're going to make up the difference in computing power. And I don't know, I have the soft spot for two, because I feel like two discrete graphics cards are going to handle, because I'm all about multitasking. That's what I do. I don't just sit there with one monitor and one task at hand. I like to have, my browser over here, my game here, Twitch stream over there, and a couple other things in the background. I feel like two graphics cards is going to, multitask better than a single, even though it probably wouldn't run, maybe in your case, a single application better.
Correct. It would not. Yeah, it would handle games pretty well that support Crossfire or SLI. But by and large, I'd say less than half of what you do will really matter, unless you're a hardcore gamer and that's all you do.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, but I felt that this was a good place to, of course, spend a little bit more money. Obviously the CPU so far seems to be one of your biggest investments, followed closely by the GPU, your graphics card.
Right.
So yeah, and again, shop by deal. I cannot stress that enough. Mail-in rebates, special deals. Please do that. So from graphics cards, and again, folks, cannot stress that enough. A lot of choice there. Shop around. Where did you go from here? Because there's RAM, there's of course storage when we talk about hard drives. Where did you go from here?
From here, I went to, actually, from the video card, I went to the RAM.
The RAM. Very good choice.
Yeah, I'm kind of a brand loyalist to some things that I really like, and Corsair has been a really good brand for me. So I went with their Corsair Vengeance, and I did two 8 gig sticks for 16 gigabytes. 4 gig sticks would be a little bit cheaper, but going with two 8 gig sticks gives you room to move up to 32 gigs later on. And that ended up being at $117. You can find cheaper RAM, I'm sure, maybe by $10-20 even for 16 gigs. But I like Corsair. I didn't buy their super fastest, but this is a DDR4 at 266, which is definitely respectable and can handle a little bit of overclocking if you choose to do so.
Okay, wait. So I think I have the wrong one here. You chose the DDR4. For anyone out there who may not know, because this is the part where even I had a bit of trouble, there is, of course, in the graphics card, there's the GDDR5. You just mentioned DDR4, and there's a lot of options out there for DDR3. What do all these, letters and numbers kind of mean? And really, what should you ignore and what should you really pay attention to when it comes to RAM?
Well, DDR stands for double data rate, and it's a way to get the memory sticks to be as fast as possible. And the different designations with DDR2, DDR3, DDR4 are all about what the motherboard can handle. Some motherboards can only do DDR3, some can only do DDR4, for example. So you want to pay attention to what your motherboard and CPU combination can handle, and buy that designation of RAM. And then after that, DDR3 or DDR4 designation is another number, like I mentioned, 20. What was mine? 266.
Right.
There's 3400. Those are speed designations. How fast the motherboard can basically interact with the memory, and overclockers will want to buy the higher secondary number after the DDR3 or DDR4, and they want to consult with their motherboard to see what the higher I guess clock speed or interface speed that it handles. And for me, spending more money for the fastest RAM available really is not going to make that much real world difference. You're kind of splitting hairs at this point, in my view. And I would rather have a stable system than a super duper fast one.
Right.
So I don't overclock. So that doesn't really impress me too much. So I go with a brand that I like, that's stable and has good RAM, because if your RAM is not good, you're not going to run very well, if at
Right.
all.
No, absolutely. And I see that I have made my first mistake. I'll have to go back and change my link, but I chose a different brand of RAM. This is one by Crucial. I've heard of them before, so I was comfortable, of course, choosing them. There's a lot of RAM choices out there where you may have not have heard of the company, but you like their price point. Edge away from those. They're, RAM that is manufactured over in Taiwan and China and things like that. I mean, there's a lot of companies trying to break into the market, trying to get their share, and they cut a lot of corners. I mean, bad RAM sticks get sent out every day of the week. So
Absolutely.
definitely choose someone. I don't technically have that brand loyalty that Dariush was just talking about, but I definitely only choose from companies I've at least heard of, not just, never heard of them before.
Crucial is a great brand. Crucial makes really good RAM as well. They make good, solid RAM. I've had Crucial before, and I've just stuck with Corsair because I've just stuck with them. But
yeah.
I like Crucial a lot as well. They're good.
Yeah. So, but yeah, here's where I messed up, and this is, now that you just mentioned it, the motherboard that I chose, if you go way back to the Asus Tough Sabertooth that I chose before, the 990FX only supports DDR3 up to 1866 megahertz. And yeah, the one I chose from Crucial is DDR4 at 2133. So obviously I overchose my RAM. I saw the DDR4, I was like, oh, that's going to be better. Motherboard does not allow it.
And sometimes the DDR designation is also the pins on the module as well. So
Right.
it may not physically go into your motherboard. So listeners definitely want to be careful about that. And it's a super easy mistake to make, because I did that too. I went with DDR3 memory when I first spec'd this out. And then I went back and read the fine print on the motherboard. And I'm like, oh, right, I need DDR4 for this one.
Right. So Darius just needs DDR4, and he got that. I'm moving to, and again, going back real quick, and I had to choose a RAM. I went with, surprise, surprise, Corsair. Corsair Vengeance, same line, but this one is a DDR3. So I believe, though, looking at yours came in at about 115 or so, 120.
117.
Okay, yeah. So somewhere in there. Yeah, and mine, the exact same. So mine's about 115 as well. So my price doesn't really change from the Crucial to the Corsair.
Yeah,
just gotta make sure you get the right one.
Exactly right. Exactly right. You want to make sure all your I's are crossed and your T's are dotted before moving on, because I've done that before where I bought the wrong memory. I had a server motherboard that could only accept ECC corrected RAM. and I got non-ECC, and it wouldn't boot. It would fit in the board, but it wouldn't boot.
Mhm.
And I spent hours and hours agonizing over it until I finally got into the manual and read,
Right.
oh, I need error correcting RAM for this board. That's what it
Mm.
was. So you want to be careful there. You want to pick your CPU, motherboard, and RAM very, very carefully and make sure everything adds up.
Right. So, did that, and though for comparison's sake, money did not go up. It's just again choosing the right one. So from
Cool.
RAM, and just like you said, I could have gone for the little bit more pricier 32 gigs of RAM. That would have also kind of future-proofed you a bit, but I feel, you said it earlier, it's one of the easiest things to replace. Motherboard, CPU, not so easy. RAM is actually pretty low level, very simple thing to upgrade. So I didn't feel bad about maybe down the road if if it starts getting sluggish and you run that little application that shows you your bottleneck, and your bottleneck is indeed your RAM. That's very simple to replace. So did not feel bad about skimping there a little bit. So from there, from there, I kind of went to storage, SSD or a traditional hard drive. My goodness, SSDs, as much as we were kind of touting it a couple of months ago about how much the price has come down, I mean,
Yeah.
they're still expensive when you get over a terabyte. So obviously, I think you did what I did, and there's two different storage
Yes.
options.
Yeah, exactly. I got a .M2 Evo from Samsung for the boot drive. It's a 250 gig, and it plugs into the M.2 slot on the motherboard that I picked,
Right?
which gives you like wicked fast transfer. And it's not the fastest. You can get another Samsung 870 Pro, I think it is, but it's a lot more expensive. It's about twice the price. But this one's a really good and really fast drive to have your Windows and your installation and your games all launching from there.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, at 250 gigs, you're not going to be putting all your data on there.
Right. And although I do have to mention that when I chose mine, and I also went with the M.2, simply because of our previous conversations that we've had here on the show, you have sang the praises of M.2 controller technology, and we're going to get into why that's so important in a second. But I will say that this is the first time I've actually sat down and looked at one of these graphics, or not graphics, hard drives. They don't exactly look like a traditional solid state drive. I mean, they look more like a memory stick. And it, how's the installation on one of these compared to, any other kind of hard drive?
It's actually easier because it's just like installing RAM. If your motherboard has an M.2 slot, it's physically just plugging it into the slot and screwing one little screw in to keep it on the motherboard, and that's it.
No, perfect, and could not be easier. So again, M.2, why was that important for your solid state drive?
Well, the M.2 has a faster transfer speed between the bus and the memory. SATA caps out. SATA SAT3 will cap out, and you'll be getting several hundred megabytes per second. With M.2, you have a much larger bandwidth space. Now, the one I picked is at 540, I think it's megabits per second for sequential read. But here's what's really great. It has 500 megabits per second for sequential write, which is fantastic. And the random read and random write are 97,000 IOPS and 89,000 IOPS, which is really good. When you compare that with with an SATA hard drive,
Right.
you'd be getting close to that with the Samsung 850 Pro, I think it is. But if you've got another $100, you might want to buy the faster Samsung, the Pro version of the M.2, which is a lot faster than 500 per second,
Right.
which is really great.
Right. And I think you really found a very, very good solid state drive, because I picked one out as well. And yours honestly has twice the storage mine does. And, as you start getting up there, storage is really, really expensive. Yours is actually $3 more expensive than mine. So, twice the storage, $3 more. You decide if that's really worth it. But
Which one did you pick?
yeah, I went with Samsung as well, and Samsung A50 Evo. I believe my graphics card only came with a SATA port, so there's two eSATA 6 gig, 6 gigabits per second SATA ports. I didn't see anywhere where mine had an M.2, so obviously you have to choose with what you get. So I went with the M-SATA. Yeah, and
Which one? Yeah, which model?
yeah, let's see. It's the 850 Evo M-SATA 120 gig SATA 3 blah 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 blah.
Nice.
But yeah, SSD.
Yeah, very nice. They're definitely good. If you want a little bit more, you get the faster Samsungs, but I swear by the Samsungs. Intel makes a pretty mean SSD as well, very, very stable. But I've been I'm kind of eyeing the new Samsung 8, I think it's the 890, to replace. The trick is with these, now we're doing a system build from scratch, so it's not a big deal. But if you're putting one of these drives in to replace an existing C drive that you have Windows installed on,
Right.
when you go from SATA, if you replace it with another SATA drive, no problem. But if you're replacing with an M.2, you may need to load in drivers for Windows to recognize it as a storage device, which may create some problems when you try to boot back up. So it's much safer when you're doing a full system boot, but I haven't had the pleasure of replacing my SATA with an M.2 yet. But when I do, I can certainly report back to it. But I am nervous about how my existing Windows 10 installation will see that M.2, and what I have to do in the BIOS to get it to read the M.2 as the boot drive and not what used to be the SATA drive.
Right, but they're not interchangeable. So like if you have say SATA, it's not interchangeable with an M.2, right?
Correct. Yeah. Right.
Perfect.
It's. I mean, you can have them both in the same system, obviously, but it's not. You unplug one and plug the other end. That you can do only if you buy another SATA drive.
Right. So, but also something else I just learned. This is why you should always poke around for fun. I mentioned that mine was 120 and it was $94 or something like that, available online. Went up to the 250 gig just to see how much more it was. $4, So for $99, you get 250 gigs. Why in the world do they have the two so close?
Yeah, totally. We're essentially getting the same hard drive here, except we have a different interface. So what I'd ask you to do is take a look at the performance of your Evo SATA drive itself. Maybe we have the same performance numbers too. What are your read and writes?
Yeah, mine looks to be, let's see, I have yours up on screen for anyone watching the video portion. I actually have yours up on screen. Yours were 540 megabits per second, megabytes per second, and 500. Mine are 540 and 520. So
okay, so you're actually clocking in a little faster. What are your random reads and random writes?
Oh, the IOPS, 97 and 88. So 97K and 88K. So, again, I think the numbers that we're talking about here, pretty one-to-one.
Pretty similar, yeah. Pretty similar. Yeah, the M.2 gives you a little bit faster random write, about 10% faster, if that. So it's kind of a wash whether you go M.2 or regular SATA if you're getting the mid-range SSD like we're looking at. If you get the pro versions, the faster versions, the M.2 is going to start pulling away from regular SATA pretty quick.
Right. And also, I'm sure we're about to get into traditional hard drives. We are going to have to speed this up a little bit as we have about 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
I know this flew on by, but we'll get to traditional drives in a bit. But the reason that I'm sure that we did this, 250 gigs, it will give you enough room for a couple programs, your operating system, and a number of little clutter that may pile up. There are options out there where you can get solid state drives that are 4 terabytes. I've heard 10 terabytes out there, but those are going to be more than the entire computer that we're building right now. So
Yeah, right.
So what hard drive did you go for?
I just went with a Western Digital Blue 4 terabyte, and that was about $95. But you can certainly get a one. No, let's see. Yeah, mine was $130 actually for 4 terabytes.
Mm-hmm.
But you can get away with 2 or 3 terabytes. Storage is really easy to upgrade. And Western Digital versus Seagate versus Hitachi, they all come in with about the same sort of reviews, about the same prices.
Right.
So
yeah,
I think any of them.
It's a very done technology. Like they have it down to a science, and it's good as long as you've heard of the company. Once again, they pretty much have it figured out. Traditional hard drives. I as well went with I went with a Seagate, like you mentioned, one of the other good ones, and I went with 3 terabytes because hey, for $100, 3 terabytes, what's not to like? And it has the option to go all the way up to 10 terabytes. But who in the world wants to spend $400? Not too bad, but still,
right.
not bad at all. So from storage, that will have all of your storage needs. You'll be good to go there. The last thing that we should kind of mention, and again, this is where your personality can actually shine through. What case did you kind of decide for your computer?
Well, I went with a pretty simple, elegant case, the NZXT S340. It's a matte black mid-tower ATX case.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have a power supply, which is good because I like to get my own power supply. And for that, I recommend either PC Power and Cooling or Corsair. They make great power supplies. So between that, the case was $60, and this 850 watt power supply was $120. So I'm in at about $180 for case and power supply. And I just emailed you all of the links to
Perfect.
the components I picked.
I will put that in there. And just real quick, the case, you said you did the S340 matte black?
Yes, it's matte black, but they have it in red as well, which is
I kid you not. That is to a T the one I chose as well. That's
very nice.
Yeah,
very nice. It's a beautiful case, very elegant.
Yeah, no, and of course I definitely I think I have one of these sitting right behind my computer. The whole side pops off, very easy to work in, not not complicated at all. So very, very good choice because hey, it was my choice as well. And the power supply, real quick, in like 30 seconds, power supply. How do people choose a power supply?
Get a good brand, just like with memory. You want to pick a power based on what you plan on putting into it, and you want to leave a little bit of headroom. If you're doing SLI, you're going to have 2 very power-hungry cards in there. You're going to be looking at 800 watts or higher, maybe 850 up to 1,000. So I picked 850. Great brand, and a lot of room to add onto that a second card. Really easily. So I probably could have gotten away with a 750 and still have two GTX 1070s or even 1080s in there eventually, but 850 gives me more headroom.
Right, and yeah, I about chose the same thing with the HX 850 from Corsair as well. I mean, it's very, very cool to hear that we're picking a lot of very similar parts here. And cooling, you went with fan or liquid cooling?
I went with just the stock fan. Again, I don't like to overclock, but when I do go, I usually do Zalman. Zalman's a great cooling brand, and they usually do great air cooling products that are quiet.
And cooling is not my forte, so everyone, here's something you can do when you're not sure. Go onto your favorite website and look at the reviews.
90
reviews
seconds.
are a huge part about building a computer because you don't want to be the first one to get burned on a bad part. So definitely check that out. Dariush, we're about out of time. Thank you so much for doing this with us. I think this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think we can definitely talk a little bit more about this the next time I'm on, because I love talking about how to mod your computer and make it very silent and efficient. So maybe we can pick this up a little bit next time.
Sure, yeah, and there are certain little parts that we never got to. I mean,
60 seconds.
we've had people on the show talk about discrete networking cards and some other little goodies you can throw into a computer as well. So hey,
Awesome.
tune in next time, everyone, for a continuation of how to better trick out your computer. Dariush, we're out of time. Thank you so much. If people want to find out more about you or what you do, where can they go?
Just Google me. You'll find lots of stuff. It's all good.
Easy enough. And again, Dariush Derakhshani and his website will be in the show notes, as well as his entire build that we talked about here today. Do not take it as gospel, but hey, building a computer is a lot more fun than you think it is. So we'll be back tomorrow with our all Linux show that when we come back here on Computer America with Marcel Gagne. And until then, everyone, have a great day.
10
Bye-bye,
seconds.
everyone. Thank you so much. And everyone out there, I want to say thank you so much. If you are still listening, you are listening to the video portion. And tune in tomorrow for our all Linux program that we do here with Marcel Gagne. And he is the host of Cooking with Linux. And we have an all Linux show planned. It's going to be a lot of fun. See you tomorrow. So until then, bye-bye, everyone.